This evening, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mary Jo, can you please call the roll?
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Bellbeer.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Sue Grodick. Here. Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Here.
Andy Selder.
Here.
Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we'll open in prayer. Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come together this evening as the City Council and the administration. Lord, we're certainly living in turbulent times right now in our nation, so we pray that you'll please, especially today, give our leaders wisdom. We pray for our president, his administration, Lord, for our governor, his administration, of course, for Mayor Gallagher and her administration as they endeavor to lead our city. Father, we ask for extra special protection for our safety forces. We thank you for Chief Melky and Chief Paul heading up our wonderful departments here in the city of Brooklyn and the great job that the men and women in those departments do to keep us safe. Lord, they seem to be under attacks in many places in our country. We pray that you help them to feel appreciated here in Brooklyn, Ohio. We pray that you'll please continue to keep your hand of protection upon them and that you'll help the city to remain the wonderful city that it is. Father, please continue to give health to those in attendance here tonight, to the residents of our city. We pray that this virus will pass quickly and that we'll be able to get back to our normal lives here in the city. Father, pray that you'll bless our meeting tonight. We have much to cover. We pray that you'll give wisdom to all of us as we make these decisions. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Before I turn it over to the mayor for a presentation and proclamation, we do have two sets of minutes to approve. The first one is from June 8th, 2020. For the meeting June 8th, 2020, any comments or questions?
Have you recognized?
Yes.
Just a few corrections. On page 2, under my remarks, there's 2. On the second line, it should read, "This is our only time and authority." And then on the third line, right at the end, there should be the word them, so it would read, "and assures them." And then on page 3, under Mrs. Grodick's remarks, let's see, 1, 2, under the third line, kind of in the middle, it should read, "as she sees the colorful faces." And that's it on those. I make a motion we approve as amended.
Second.
To approve as amended, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick. Yes. Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selder.
Yes.
Next up is the minutes for the meeting dated June 22nd, 2020. Any comments or questions regarding those?
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Grodick. Yes. Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selder.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to the mayor. She has both a presentation and a proclamation that she's going to make. Mayor?
Okay, I'll go in order of the agenda. I'd like to invite up the auditor representative, if you'd, and our finance team. Hiding in the back. Come on.
Hi there, I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Faber to present the City of Brooklyn with the Auditor of State Award with distinction. This is the second time I've been here, and I've only been with the office for 2 years, so pretty good. It puts you in a special group. Our office audits over 6,000 entities, and about 3% of them year over year are eligible to receive this award. So it's a pretty big deal. On top of that, the City of Brooklyn received the full 4-star rating on our new STARS public record system. So that's top notch as well. And it speaks to the hard work of every city employee, of the council, of the administration, everybody pulling together to make sure that you're doing things the right way. And it also speaks to the professionalism of Mr. Agus and his team. So again, on behalf of the auditor, congratulations.
Can't tell if you're smiling.
Really? This is one for the record books, right?
Yes. Well, I was nervous.
I know, I'm sorry. 1,
Jeez.
Thank you, finance team, great job.
Congratulations. We have tremendous employees. They've done an exceptional job 2 years in a row, and obviously that stat speaks for itself on that. And it's news to me on the public records. We talked about that earlier this year to make sure we were in full compliance, and so I have to give a shout out to our law director because he definitely led that. So good job, team. I'm proud of you guys. Next, I'd like to invite up our fire chief, Kevin Paul, and Lieutenant Mike Mochan and your family. Come on up. Everyone can hear me okay with this mask speaking, correct? Okay. So tonight, I'm very honored to be giving out a proclamation to Lieutenant Mike Mochan. Last week marks a long career here in Brooklyn, serving as lieutenant. He started here in the city of Brooklyn on August 28th, 1990. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2007, and he concluded his service as of last week, September 9th. Prior to working in the city of Brooklyn, Lieutenant Mochan worked for Highland Heights for a couple years. And then while he was here working for Brooklyn, he worked tirelessly on the aluminum cans for burn children since 1998. This is an organization that annually recycles 55,000 pounds of aluminum cans, when with the money they collect, they provide fire prevention education to 3,000 Northeast Ohio school children, including those in Brooklyn. Mike Mochan, who is a volunteer of thousands of hours working with the staff of Camp Phoenix, along with the Metro Health Medical Center Burn Unit and local firefighters to ensure that children ages 5 to 17 had a chance to meet other burn survivors and enjoy the fun at camp. On behalf of the City of Brooklyn and the employees here, City Council, we thank you for your years of service, and it was so wonderful to hear some of these things because I never even knew them. And I want to congratulate you and wish you best of luck on your retirement and all of your future endeavors, and enjoy yourself. And I know Chief Paul has some things to say.
Thank you. That's a pretty long list of great achievements there for Lieutenant Mochan, but I have something else I'd like to add. So one of the things that Mayor Gallagher has us directors do, as well as new employees, is kind of speak about ourselves, something that folks may not know. I thought I would take this opportunity tonight with this proclamation of Lieutenant Mochan's retirement, that I would share something else about him that you may not know, and that he wouldn't tell you about on any other day. So Lieutenant Mochan and his sons, they're avid fishermen, okay? So much so that a few years ago, I'm not sure when exactly, he got his captain's license, okay? And he started his own fishing charter company. All right, he was so busy with this fishing charter that if he wasn't at the fire station and the weather was good, he was out on the lake, okay? But again, this is where Lieutenant Mochan and his service to the community comes into, okay? Not only does he volunteer numerous hours at burn camps, but he also volunteers his time on Lake Erie with our military, folks from the Wounded Warriors Project. He's done that, I couldn't tell you how many times, but he's told me that. That's not something that he brags about, and I appreciate that. Something so very simple to these gentlemen means so much. Ladies and gentlemen, means so much to them. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Lieutenant Mochan, thank you for your service to the children at burn camp. Thank you for your service to the folks in the military, especially the Wounded Warriors, and thank you for your service to the citizens here of the fine city of Brooklyn. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Picture, yeah. See a picture of it? You can get in here for that. Get in here. You can get in there.
Oh, no, I was
everyone. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Chief, for sharing that story. That was awesome. Congratulations, Lieutenant. Happy retirement.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
To the residents who are here tonight, and also to those watching online, welcome back. We did have one special council meeting in our summer recess that took place on Thursday, September 3rd. We discussed and approved the following ordinances. Ordinance 2020-29, which is the purchase of 4771 Tiedemann Road for $135,000. Ordinance 2020-30, assessing unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations of section 521.14 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn, and these are usually for grass cutting violations. And then lastly was Ordinance 2020-31, authorizing the purchase of 8707 Memphis Avenue. This is the former Up to Bat property for a purchase price of $500,000. Placed on first reading at that meeting was Ordinance 2020-32, authorizing the sale of a portion of 8707 Memphis Avenue to West Creek Conservancy, and we'll talk more about that later on in the meeting. At this time, we'll have the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and welfare of the City of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer. Okay, and there is no. We will now move on with reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We'll begin this evening with the Finance Committee. We did meet this evening at 6:15 prior to the Committee of the Whole meeting, and we discussed the following. We had several notifications. One was a donation of $200 was received for Keep Brooklyn Beautiful. Secondly was a donation of $2,945.41 from the Ohio Department of Public Safety that will be used to purchase life-saving equipment. A successful grant application for $120,000 from the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission's 2020 Community Grant Program. This is going to be used for the Brook Park Road streetscape improvement. A project here in the City of Brooklyn is eligible for the Ohio State Fiscal Year 2022 Urban Paving Program, and these funds will cover a portion of the construction of Brook Park Road in Brooklyn during 2022. Brooklyn will have to expend some funds for this at about 20% of the cost. Right now, it looks to be about $156,000 for this project. Brooklyn was also awarded a grant from the Safety Intervention Grant Program for $23,117.79 towards the purchase of $30,823.79 of fire department equipment. The city will pay the difference of $7,705.93. And lastly, Brooklyn received a donation of $3,600 from the Kiwanis for the storyboard project in Marquardt Park. Additionally, in finance, we talked about Ordinance 2020-32. This will be placed on second reading this evening. This is authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with West Creek Conservancy for the sale of certain real property known as a portion of 8707 Memphis Avenue. This is the part of the Up to Bat property, and we are looking at selling a portion of this to West Creek Conservancy, but we're doing some research on the land right now to find out exactly how much and where that will be sold to them, and so that is on second reading. Next is Resolution 2020-3. This is on first reading, accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies for certified under the county fiscal officer. This is a resolution that's required to be passed every year that establishes our property millage rates. They have not changed. They are 5.9 mils. Next is Resolution 2020-5 on first reading, requesting the county fiscal officer advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2020 tax levies pursuant to the revised code. This is an annual resolution that's necessary for us to receive those tax proceeds for the year 2021. Ordinance 2020-33. And this we hope to pass by suspension of the rules for timing issues. This is authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Mary Lynn Zambori for the purchase of certain real property at 7476 Memphis Avenue. And this purchase price is $87,000. Next is Ordinance 2020-37. This is to enter into a contract with the Public Entities Pool of Ohio, and that's for the purchase of our property and casualty insurance for the city. The coverage is set to begin September 25th of this year at a cost not to exceed $129,266. This is a $2,000 increase from last year, or a 1.6% increase. The policy has not changed. And we are going to pass by suspension of the rules since this policy was set to go into effect prior to our next council meeting. Ordinance 2020-39 is for the resurfacing of Ridge Road from Pearl Road to Flowerdale in cooperation with the county. And there's a breakdown of the costs, and these costs will be shared with Cleveland, Parma, Brooklyn, the county, and the federal government. And it looks right now that the percent for Brooklyn for the construction will be about 2.5% of the costs and 25% for the design. This will not take place until 2022, so we're still in the early stages of that. But right now, it looks like it'll cost the city about $108,000. Then lastly, on first reading is ordinance 2020-40. And this is declaring the improvement of certain real property a public purpose pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, declaring such improvements to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that would directly benefit the property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, and designating a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent for the deposit of such service payments, and to compensate the school district and Polaris and the joint vocational school district for monies that they will potentially lose for this. And this is referred to as TIF financing. We'll talk more about this as we go further along. That is all we had for finance. The finance meeting does begin at 6:15 prior to all regularly scheduled council meetings. All right, at this time, we'll move on to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Commissioner Kolsar.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Board of Zoning Appeals will be meeting this Thursday, September 17th at 6 p.m. Right here in Brooklyn City Hall Council Chambers. We'll be hearing a request from Grand Automotive LLC for a 1-foot height variance to the maximum allowable height of a 6-foot high fence at 3540 Ridge Road. That completes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the Planning Commission, Councilwoman Sue Grodick.
Thank you. The Planning Commission met on Wednesday, September 2nd, and these are the items that we considered. We approved a request from Spirit Halloween for a temporary banner at 4780 Ridge Road. We approved a request from Custom Sign Center for LED letter sign for Tire Choice at 51748 Ridge Road. We deferred a request for an outdoor electric billboard on CSX Railroad property at 0 Tiedemann Road. We approved a request for a sign package from Ortiz Art Designs at 4336 Ridge Road. We deferred a request for an illuminated wall sign for the Land Smoke Shop at 4308 Ridge Road. And we approved a request from Skyline Chili for final site approval at 5080 Tiedemann Road. And there is no construction date yet to report there. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 7th at 6 p.m. in Council Chambers. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Grodick. Next up is our School Board Liaison, Councilwoman Mary Belbeer.
Thank you. The school year started remotely on September 8th. It has been a great start so far with attendance and student engagement being positive. All of the staff are working from the buildings which the administration believes contributes to the positive start. The school was able to have an all-senior parents' night for the athletes and band members. School will resume in-person learning on September 28th under their hybrid plan. That's it. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 8:15 to 1:15. Wednesday will be remote. Athletics and activities will resume practicing starting on September 21st. With the start of the year, Brooklyn is now a 1-to-1 district where all students are provided a Chromebook for remote learning. Pre-construction bids are due this week for the removal of the mounds. They are tentatively looking to break ground in October. The next school board meeting is tomorrow, September 15th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up is the Recreation Board, Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. Next Recreation Board meeting will be held on September 21st at 7 p.m. in the Rec Center meeting room. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Lastly is the Committee of the Whole report. That meets following the finance meeting just prior to our council meeting. And I'm going to go over what we talked about some of the finance items in there as well, but we already went over those, so I'm just going to go over what was covered outside of that inside the Committee of the Whole. The first is Resolution 2020-6. This is a resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and this is what gave women suffrage, the women the right to vote in the United States. It's 100 years old this year, and so Councilwoman Grodick and Ryan Shockey introduced this legislation to celebrate that. Resolution 2020-7, supporting the West Creek Conservancy's Clean Ohio Green Space Round 15 grant application for the Big Creek Greenway by the City of Brooklyn and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2020-8, resolution placing a moratorium on the granting of building permits for any building, structure, use, or change of that will enable the construction of billboards for a period not to exceed 90 days from the effective date of this resolution. And there was an applicant for a billboard here in the City of Brooklyn, and this moratorium will give the city 90 days to review our current policy to make sure that our code is correct and accurate in the way that the City Council and the City Administration wants it to be reflected. Next is Ordinance 2020-35, amending sections 1360.21 inspection and 1360.22 right of entry of the Codified Ordinance of the City of Brooklyn. And this adds to our ordinance a request for a warrant for inspection. Of course, everyone knows our Fourth Amendment rights. Governments cannot enter a property under the Fourth Amendment without a warrant. And so if people do not give voluntary access to our building department, they would need to seek a warrant for that. There's no issues right now. This simply clarifies our inspection process. Mr. Coulter does a wonderful job with that. We have no issues, but this is just to clarify our position. So I want to thank Mr. Butler for this. It's very well written. Ordinance 2020-36, we hope to pass by suspension of rules this evening. This is amending section 149.17, positions of the ordinances here in the city. And this permits two things. One, it allows the civil service to allow a lateral hire from other departments. And number two, it gives the mayor the authority to keep a position that's currently vacant inside those departments. Keep it that way unless, of course, it's superseded by the collective bargaining agreement. And they hope to pass this by suspension of the rules because we have looks like some ability to be able to make some of those lateral transfers here in the very near future if this does indeed pass. Then Ordinance 2020-38, this authorizes the mayor to grant a conservation easement to West Creek Conservancy for the Stickney Creek stabilization. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done down there in regards to fixing some of the gabion walls and some different issues that we're having down in the creek behind City Hall. And so this authorizes West Creek Conservancy to come in and have an easement to do those projects. Off the agenda this evening, the mayor did give us an update in regards to the opening of the senior center. The governor did give guidelines allowing the senior center to open up on September the 21st. The mayor passed out to us the restrictions that were laid out, and based upon those restrictions, we are not planning on opening the senior center on September 21st. It would not make much sense based upon what I've read so far to have it opened up just because it's so restrictive. And so we will keep an eye on that, and hopefully some of those restrictions will be eased and we'll be able to open up the senior center once again. Then the mayor also gave us an update on the master plan progress, which I'm sure she'll talk about in her report as well. Again, the Committee of the Whole does comprise all of council and takes place following the finance meeting right after the finance report, or excuse me, the finance committee meeting. At this time, we'll move on with reports of council. We'll begin this evening with Mrs. Pucci.
Good evening and welcome back from the summer break to everyone. First, I'd like to congratulate Lieutenant Mike Mochan, his wife Colleen, and his family on his retirement. It's really hard for me to believe that he's ready to retire already. I literally remember the day he started because he was assigned to my husband's shift. Mike is a great person who is dedicated to his job and our community. And as you heard, he also has selflessly given of his time to the wounded warriors and also children who are the victims of burns from fires. I wish him nothing but the best and a long, healthy, and happy retirement. Friday was the 19th anniversary of 9/11. I hope we all had a chance to reflect on and remember the victims and their families. It's really hard to believe that it's been 19 years. It's important that we always remember what happened that terrible day. I especially remember Lieutenant Chuck Margiata of the New York City Fire Department and his family. My oldest son Frank was awarded a scholarship in his name that was established for the children of firefighters. I'd like to offer my condolences to the family of retired Service Department employee Glenn Shoger. Glenn was a good worker who was dedicated to our city for many years, and he always had a smile on his face. My sympathies to his wife and family. I know how much he will be missed. My condolences also to the family of Mrs. Eileen Monick. Mrs. Monick was a longtime resident who was active in PTA, the Music Parents Group, and also the St. Thomas More Guild. Congratulations to Mr. Raguse and his team of Mrs. Haig, Ms. Westfall, and Mrs. Simcoe on the award from the Auditor's State Auditor's Office. Thank you for all your efforts. We appreciate it. I'd like to thank all the chiefs, directors, and department heads for their assistance and efforts over the summer, handling residents' complaints and concerns. The summer is usually, the busiest time for us, with residents calling about either with questions or concerns, but also a lot of complaints. And I know we as council people always appreciate their assistance in resolving these quickly. The gold cards, which are sold by the Music Boosters as a fundraiser, are now available. I know that the students typically go door to door selling them. I'm not sure if they're going to be going door to door this year because of COVID, but I know you can contact the schools or any Music Booster parent to purchase them. It's a really good fundraiser, and for those who aren't familiar with it, it's basically a card, and basically it gets you discounts at different stores and restaurants in our community. So if you can, please try and support the Music Boosters. I'd like to welcome back our new school superintendent, Dr. Ted Caleres. Dr. Caleres was part of our community before as a teacher, athletic director, and principal. I look forward to reconnecting with him, and I wish him success in his new position. On August 17th, the Brooklyn Community Improvement Corporation met at 5:30 here at City Hall, and we approved the minutes of our most previous meeting, which was February 3rd of this year. We discussed the purchase of 8519 Memphis Avenue, which is the former Speedway Training Center, which is at the corner of Memphis and Rodone. We did authorize the administration to move forward in negotiating the purchase of that property. And we also had a brief discussion on the small cell towers that cell phone providers are erecting in our city. And I believe that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mrs. Belbeer.
Thank you. I too would like to say congratulations to Lieutenant Mochan on his retirement. I can only imagine what he's going to do now that he's retired, all the wonderful things that he's going to do, just listening to everything that he did when he was working. I wish him good luck and much happiness. We've all been reading about concerns of voting in the upcoming national election. There is expected to be more voting by mail than ever before, especially with COVID-19. In some states, such as California and Colorado, voters automatically receive absentee ballots. In Ohio, those who wish to vote by mail need to apply. All registered voters can vote by mail for any reason. Unlike other states, Ohio's system does not require voters to provide a reason why they want an absentee ballot. If not registered already, the deadline is Monday, October 5th. To obtain an application to apply for an absentee ballot, check your mailbox first. Some county boards, including Cuyahoga, sent out personalized applications that already include your name and address. Also, Secretary of State Frank LaRose last week began mailing absentee voting applications to every registered voter. If you don't have one mailed to you or you don't want to wait, blank applications can be found on the website of the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections and the Ohio Secretary of State. Many local libraries also have a stack of blank applications. Our own Brooklyn Library on Ridge Road has them available and will mail it in for you. You can also put it in the drop box at the Board of Elections. No envelope needed. The drop box is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the board at East 30th and Euclid Avenue. I'd like to welcome the new Bishop of Cleveland, Edward Malesek, who just was installed as bishop this past afternoon at St. John's Cathedral downtown. He is the 12th bishop of the Cleveland Diocese. He will be the shepherd of the diocese that is home to over 700,000 Catholics. I wish him God's blessings and guidance. I know he will have many challenges, but I believe he trusts that God will provide. Lastly, with schools slowly opening, partially and full-time, please be aware of street crossings, right turns on red during specific times, and speed limits. If you don't have children in the school system and aren't familiar with school openings, I think you're better off following regulations as if school was in regular session. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to welcome back all the city council members, city directors, staff, and all residents as we continue to work through these challenging times. I hope everyone had an enjoyable summer and look ahead to the fall season. I would like to welcome Mr. Ted Claris as our new superintendent of Brooklyn City Schools. I also would like to thank Mr. Claris and the school board for their efforts in getting the Hurricane Alley Mountain project moving forward. I also appreciate Mayor Katie Gallagher's input and support of the project. Public bids for this project have begun with the anticipation of completion date by late fall. There are directors that I would like to recognize for their hard work and dedication to our city, including Police Chief Scott Melke, Fire Chief Kevin Paul, Building Commissioner Dave Kosar, Service Director John Verba, in responding to residents' concerns in a timely manner throughout the summer. I also want to wish a very happy retirement to Michael Mochan. I also would like to offer my condolences to Haberak family on the passing of Jeffrey M. Haberak, who is a longtime Brooklyn resident, and also to the Shabesta family on the passing of Jeffrey James Shabesta. They will be deeply missed by the family and friends. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up, Mrs. Grodick.
Thank you. I also would like to add my congratulations to the finance department. Being in the third percentile is pretty impressive. I was going to add my best wishes to Lieutenant Mochan on his retirement, but after listening, I'm not really sure I would define it as retirement. He's definitely just moving into a new chapter in his life, and I hope it's as wonderful and fulfilling as his Brooklyn time was. You've already heard President Van Kirk mention that we are going to be considering Resolution 2020-6, and I thank my colleagues for considering that. A little bit of background on August 26, 1920, which doesn't seem that long ago to me, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution officially took effect, and that gave women in our country the right to vote. Again, 1920 just doesn't seem that long ago to me. World War I was already finished, and women still in this country didn't have the right to vote. So we're celebrating this 100 years later, acknowledging that that right was not easily won. The women's suffrage movement worked decades to ensure that women could also vote alongside of men. But even today, too many obstacles are in our way of voting. Mrs. Balbier mentioned some important dates. I'm not going to repeat them all, except a few. If you're not registered to vote, you have until October 5th to register. The most important date is November 3rd is our election. So please remember to vote. And in Ohio, we have a lot of options. Please use one of them, but please vote. And thank you for considering Resolution 2020-6. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up is Mrs. Ryan Shuckey.
I'm going to piggyback on Councilwoman Grodick. In August, while Council was on recess, women around the country celebrated the 100th anniversary of most women obtaining the right to vote. I want to thank Councilwoman Grodick for co-introducing today's resolution honoring that anniversary. I hope that every woman listening today checks their registration and to ensure it's up to date and votes this fall to honor the right that many before us fought for. Speaking of voting, for the men and women. There is still time to register to vote. You can go to the County Board of Elections website or follow the directions that both Councilwoman Belvier and Grodick talked about. In other information, we are officially halfway through our community cleanups for this year. Thanks to Councilman Sulhert, Brooklyn has become an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. This has allowed us to apply for grants, get extra supplies, and even take in donations like the one we will accept tonight. As the midway point of this year, we've held 4 cleanups with a ton of new faces and some returns from last year as well. We've had over 100 volunteer hours so far and collected over 60 bags of trash. This weekend, we will be hosting our first Trash Dash, joining other Keep America Beautiful affiliates and encouraging residents to collect trash on their walk. Whether it's around your neighborhood or at your favorite park, we encourage you to head out for a walk and fill up a bag of trash. We have a registration link to know how many are going to be joining us at volunteer.kab.org. Just put in our zip code and our cleanups, including this weekend's Trash Dash, come up. I hope that my fellow council people join us this weekend in our first annual Trash Dash. Also, before next council meeting takes place, we will be having a organized community cleanup on Saturday, September 26th. We'll be meeting at the Home Depot parking lot on Brook Park Road at 9 a.m. Hope to see you there. That ends my report.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Sulhertz.
Thank you. Congratulations to Mr. Raguse and his staff on their awards for last year's financial reports. Congratulations and best wishes to Lieutenant Mike Mochan. And also welcome back to Mr. Collaris back to Brooklyn, and hopefully better things just keep on moving forward. Next Tuesday in the parking lot at St. Elias, Bubba's Yard will be doing another fresh food and produce giveaway. It starts at 3:30. When you're there, there'll be 2 lines forming around the building. Please have your trunk cleared so items can be placed in the trunk. As Meg mentioned, we've been doing with Keep Brooklyn Beautiful a number of cleanups. It's been nice to see the people. We had a little article in Cleveland.com. The first one we ended up with like about 25 people, which was really, really nice. We've managed to have on some of these events where the main group stays in one location and then we'll actually split off to a smaller group and try to hit some of the freeway entrances around 480, around Tiedemann and Ridge also. We'll get into the Cleveland area even because when people come off the freeway, they really don't know where Cleveland and Brooklyn are. But it's the first impression, so you're trying to make sure it looks good. One of the things we're doing with Keep Brooklyn Beautiful, as I mentioned in the earlier council meetings, is we had a grant for paint from Sherwin-Williams for a mural. We finally got all the parties agreed on. The mural is going to be on the retaining wall by Arby's parking lot on Ridge Road by Brook Park. We have met with the representative from Sherwin-Williams. He's measured out the wall. He's going to see what prep work has to be done. They'll take care of that. At that meeting, Mr. Casper, the high school arts teacher, was also present and was given ideas on the general concept of what the mural should look like. The students are working on the drawings right now. They'll present the drawings to all the other parties concerned, and hopefully we can get this with all this COVID stuff. We can still get it worked on and done before the weather turns colder. Another part of Keep Brooklyn Beautiful that we're working on is trying to obtain cigarette butt containers that are going to be placed at all the RTA closed bus stops. So just little things that just try to make life a little bit better. And last thing on a fun note, at the end of October, we're still going to do a Halloween house decorating contest. When it gets closer, we'll give you details, when to have the lights on and all. But we've got to try to have some fun in these times. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sulhertz. Just a quick reminder, as already mentioned, the last date of register to vote is October the 5th, so make sure you get those voter registration forms in. Also, it's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle because of all that's going on, but the 2020 census is going on, And please make sure you go to 2020census.gov. You want to make sure that we're counted in that census. A lot of funding is predicated upon that census also. Ohio, we don't want to see another electoral vote lost. We lost 2 last time. It's predicted that we'll lose another one. And of course, that does have a direct effect on the presidential election. So it won't for this time, but it would for the next time if we do indeed lose one. So please make sure you go on the website and be counted on 2020census.gov. As already mentioned, but I want to offer my congratulations again to our finance team on a job well done. 3% out of 6,000. It's pretty impressive. So great job, Mr. Raguse and your staff. I appreciate the hard work and the transparency, especially that new transparency website. It's very well done. Also, congratulations to Lieutenant Michael Mochan on his retirement. And as Mrs. Gregg just said, doesn't sound like he's going to be doing a whole lot of retirement, although he is fishing on his retirement, which he's already been doing. And so it's really neat that you're able to take a hobby and be a benefit to other people on that. That's a really cool thing he does for the Wounded Warriors Project. And that's a great organization. So congratulations to him and his family on that. I too want to welcome Dr. Collaros back to Brooklyn. As Mrs. Pucci mentioned, he was with the school several years ago. Haven't had a chance to meet with him. I did speak to him by phone at length a couple of weeks ago, and so I think he's going to do a great job for the city schools. I am glad to hear, as Mrs. Balbier mentioned, that the schools will be opening again for in-person learning here at the end of the month. So congratulations to his staff and team on seeing that accomplished. I also want to encourage residents, as I prayed early on in the meeting, to pray for our safety forces. I know that this council and this administration deeply appreciates our safety forces. We mention it often. What a great job that they do, and I hope it doesn't sound trite to them. At least coming from me, and I know my council members, we really are appreciative of that. You turn the news on, you read something online of what's going on. When you think of just what happened in Los Angeles, just in the last couple of days, it's tragic. And these men and women go out every day, put their lives on the line for our safety. And the Scripture tells us we're commanded to pray for them, to give thanks for them, because they help us lead quiet and peaceful lives. And so do our part to do that. When you see them, say thank you, pray for them. And we just pray that God continues to keep us safe here in the city of Brooklyn. That's all I have this evening for my report. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Council President. I apologize, I have a long report, and I know a lot of my directors are going to be speaking tonight, so we're going to cover a lot, but that's what happens after summer break. And these weird times, too, with masks, so hopefully you can hear us. Wave your hand if you can. I want to congratulate again Lieutenant Mike Mochan on a long, great career here in Brooklyn, and again, I hope he has a terrific retirement. Thank you again to Tom Raguse, our finance director, and his team on that award. I mean, it's fabulous to see employees being recognized for their hard work, because they truly do this every single day. I mentioned that earlier this year we saw that the auditors were going to assess public records. We took a look at our approach, which we thought we did a pretty good job. We tweaked some things, and you can see it on our website. If you ever want any public records, you could just push a button on our website and it automatically populates a form. Between our law director, Kevin Butler, and my assistant, Jill Ludwig, we track these public records requests, and I think we have a well-oiled machine with all the directors, knowing that those are the 2 people that we have to run everything through so we can keep track of everything. We have a huge spreadsheet that we monitor all these requests, and believe me, we have a lot of requests. I think we could have someone full-time doing public records requests in this city hall if we really wanted to. So thank you for all the time that they dedicate and the directors dedicate to fulfilling those requests. Obviously, it's something we provide the residents because it's a given in government to ensure transparency, but they do a tremendous job of responding timely, so thank you for that. I also want to thank those who have donated to our community. 2 on the agenda I like to recognize. I know Andy's done a lot of work with Keep Brooklyn Beautiful, and some of the articles that he's had published. We had an the owner of the post office say, you know what, this is something I want to stand behind. I like the work you're doing, so let me donate $200 to that effort, and we appreciate that. It's important for us to keep our community clean. I know that my service director gets texts from me random times, trash, we need to pick up this, but I think we all need to take pride in our community, no matter what the employee or resident. If we pick up after somebody who leaves something out or stuff blowing, and I know it can just happen, you can pick something up and 10 seconds later there will be more trash there. So taking pride in our community. So thank you to the employees that do that, and the residents do that, and all the work that Meg and Andy do with all of your cleanups almost every weekend. And then I'd like to thank Kiwanis. Kiwanis has reached out to me and said they're going to close the organization after decades of work here in our community and the surrounding areas because they don't have the membership. And they said, you know, we want to make sure that even as we close our doors that we're giving back to the community. They've donated tens of thousands of dollars to our school system and the community over the years, and we're very appreciative of that. And so as we were determining something that they could leave a longer legacy for, they're donating the money to make our storyboard feature connection with the library that the library started during this pandemic a permanent feature. So they, you know, it's waterproof and vandal proof going forward, and then the library can change out these storyboards. This kind of goes into a plan that our rec commissioner Jack Abruzzi has for Marquardt Park. We're putting a lot of work in there with the community development block grant money this year, next year, and the year after. So this will be a nice permanent feature, and hopefully we'll be able to, you know, have that permanent thanks to the Kiwanis Club for providing those storyboard permanent features in Marquardt Park. Also, it's been mentioned a few times that Brook Park paving and Ridge Road paving will be done in 2022. It's going to be a bad year for construction. We all realize that here. You know, construction's a must, and we all want our roads clean and easy to drive on, but we realize it's going to be a bad year. But even with that coming up, it hasn't been mentioned that we are moving forward with Parma and Cleveland, as we are with this Brook Park streetscaping plan with the grant that we received from the County Planning Commission. We're also going to apply for DOPWIC money, which is to offset the portion that we would have to pay for Brook Park Road, and so we can score higher, and we won't have any cost associated with that if we're given that grant. So we're hopeful with working with our regional partners, working with the communities that surround us, we can get more done. We can create a good cohesive look on Brook Park Road for years to come, look at our zoning, look at our streetscape, and really create an environment where businesses will continue to want to come. Also, I gave a few updates in the community as a whole, but I wanted to give this to the public as well. As far as our master plan, many of you have probably seen that over the last few weeks, the county planning has done a virtual presentation of where we are on the master plan so far. They have many goals and objectives that they went through with the long presentation. If you didn't have a chance to see it, it's still on our website or on the county planning's website. They closed the survey for today, and we were trying to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to fill out that survey. We did get a very good response rate. That survey was available not only online, but we did shout outs through our rec database, through our senior database. A lot of seniors used the opportunity to have the senior center mail them a copy, and they dropped it off. So we did really well with those response rates. Even had a lot of Parma residents fill it out through our recs, but that was identified, so we know that. We're looking at another 6 to 8 weeks through the implementation stage of this. The County Planning Commission is going to re-engage with the steering committee, who were kind of the initial resident stakeholders that identified a lot of the issues, and have them prioritize, as they already had the directors prioritize internally what we think as we move into the implementation stage. And then it will be moved out to the public once again and to City Council. Next, you may have read in the paper, we're moving forward with a marketing branding exercise and look for the city. We employed Falber Morton to move forward with this. A lot of residents are probably sort of sick of being sent questionnaires and surveys. What do you think of Brooklyn? And more like, what are you guys going to do now? Let's start moving forward with some of these things, because I know I get like that too. But with all that data that we already have, whether it was the 2016 survey that we sent out citywide, through the master plan processes, and even the prior administration and Mayor Balbier's administration, they tried to do some marketing and branding internally So we have a lot of focus group data there, as well as through the master plan process. And we've used all of that and gave that data to Fowler Morton. We're really trying to get an understanding of why the residents here really truly appreciate living here, why they live here, what keeps them here, but what is bringing new people in here. And sort of that was that data set that we didn't have, is what's driving new residents here. And so we were able to do some interviews. We did a call out on social media. They got really good feedback, and so now we're moving into the second stage of a group of residents, internal city employees, Councilwoman Pucci, and hopefully with that kind of process, we'll have a good brand identity moving forward. The reason we're moving forward with that now is this is something that was identified in the master plan process as something that is a priority for residents. They said, what is Brooklyn's identity? We need to understand what that identity is. We need to ensure people know when they're riding across the border from Cleveland to Brooklyn, they're coming to this community and what differentiates us from Cleveland or Parma. So we hope to do that, as well as on the same time we are simultaneously working with a vendor to update our website. So our website is very old, it is not user-friendly, and so that is something we're trying to accomplish for the residents and business owners in our community, that if you need a permit, that if you need something, you can go to our website, get that information easily, or register for things, pay for things, make it easier for especially anybody on their phone filling out any information. So we're moving forward with that. That is something in our 2016 survey that ranked well below the national average as well as pure community average. So as we move forward with that, we can kind of use our branding material to easily coincide with their website launch. Next, another thing I've updated City Council on is we've talked about building a new police station, City Hall, for many years now, decades actually. And we've assessed all of our buildings. You know, some things have set this back, whether it's the bubble, the housing bubble, American Greetings leaving, but we're in a really good position to move forward with this now financially. And so we have put out 2 RFQs, an RFQ for an owner's rep and an RFQ for an architect. The owner's rep closed today. We had 13 interested firms already for the owner's rep. And so we are going to continue to move forward with that process after we picked an owner's rep, move forward with an architect. We've done a lot of due diligence. We know what we want. We may need to scale it back because of the price point a little bit, but we have our want list and our need list, and we know where to go from here. So we're excited about that process because it's long overdue, and I think everybody in this room is supportive of that. And we've seen that time and time again. Council President Van Kirk has mentioned the senior center. These are hard decisions on every respect when we're talking about our city buildings and keeping residents safe, especially keeping seniors safe, as they are the one of the most vulnerable populations. So I think it was purposeful that the guidelines from the state of Ohio make it very difficult to open up the centers. We're not alone in looking at these guidelines saying, is this doable? Are we providing seniors with the opportunity to actually enjoy the services that we're able to provide at the senior center? And we've come to the conclusion at this point we're not. One of the requirements is to COVID test all of our employees every other week. And we've seen this internally as we struggle with doing COVID tests for our safety forces. It's not as easy as you think to get a COVID test. So to get those results, and until some of these guidelines kind of loosen up, we're not in the position to open up our senior center at this point. It is something that we're going to continue to monitor and continue to change, just like we did with the rec center. And so we will keep you up to date. I know Karen is going to be doing a robocall to all of our seniors tomorrow and making that announcement. I know that there are some residents that are definitely want to get back in the senior center, and we miss them and they miss being over there, but at this point it's just not conducive or safe to bring them back yet. Sam's Club flooding is one other thing I brought up with City Council. I know that on Labor Day we had another flooding event over in that area. Historically, that particular parcel was not a floodplain, currently is a floodplain. So it's taken decades to get to this point as Parma and North Royalton and Parma Heights have built up without not the adequate retention and detention in those communities. And so where does the water come? It comes down to Brooklyn, and unfortunately this seems to be one of the places where a lot of that water lands if it rains too quickly in a small amount of time. So we've been working with Regional Sewer District, the owners of the Sam's Club property, and trying to find remedies moving forward, making small adjustments. Thankfully, this last flood event didn't flood their store, it just flooded the parking lot. We've put in a sensor so we all know when it's coming, even that storm when it was raining in Parma, not raining in Brooklyn, and that sensor went off. We're looking around saying, what's happening? But it did flood. So we're in a position to know this. Our safety forces are doing a tremendous job of getting out there and making sure residents are safe. But as we move forward, Regional Sewer District has done tons of modeling, and we're going to be making small incremental changes to try to help that. But again, this has taken decades to get to this point. It's not going to be this instant solution. So I know it's something that people get frustrated with our government as they see this on the news. I just want to manage expectations and say this is not something that you're going to see a quick change and make sure everything stops, because it doesn't work like that. But there are tons of efforts moving forward with some small changes, and each change we make, we see a little bit of positive results from it. Next, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our new superintendent, Ted Caleres, and new treasurer, Colleen. I've been able to meet with the superintendent twice now in the short period of time that he has been here. We're really trying to have a positive, good relationship working, and a lot of that comes with we're serving the same constituents, bringing in same tax dollars, and making sure we're utilizing and being most efficient as possible. And so, we're going to be moving forward with some kind of joint use agreement with different fields and rec center use, and as we use their building, and making sure that we are serving our constituents the best way possible. So I look forward to that continued relationship with him. Next, many of you saw that the house on Memphis near Lyndale Bridge was demoed. The city had purchased that a few months back. That's an area that we've been really trying to work on improving that corridor. Unfortunately, I know Andy spoke about the Sherwin-Williams grant. He initially secured that grant for the repainting of that bridge, but unfortunately, the railroad has not wanted to work with us on cleaning up the bridge. We had a multi-million-dollar grant that we could have applied for cleaning up that bridge, and they just were not cooperative participants, even though they didn't have to do any work. They just had to sign off on it. And so we continue to push. Sherrod Brown's office is helping us trying to navigate that, putting a little pressure on the railroad. But we're committed to trying to clean up that corridor as best as possible, and hopefully you'll see some movement, and that was sort of the starting phase of that cleanup. Next, I want to let everyone know, if you didn't see on social media, that Cleveland Airport is doing a master plan update. If you have any input on changes for the Cleveland Airport, or just to see kind of the data, they've seen some dramatic increases over the years and decreases this year. And the closure of Dayton Airport, and I think the ultimate closure of Akron Airport, it's going to be important how we position our airport going in the future to bring in businesses regionally. So I'm a big advocate of making your voice heard. So if you want to check that out, it's the clevelandairportmasterplan.com. Next is Halloween. I've had a few phone calls in my office about Halloween. I know tons of people are anxious to see what we're going to do. Cleveland.com just called today to see what the city is going to do, but right now we're sort of a wait and see approach. We've been advised that the Board of Health is going to put out a directive soon, as well as the state of Ohio. So we're going to see what those recommendations are from the health experts before we make a call on Halloween. You can kind of go back and forth of whether, we can stay safe. I've seen kind of neat ideas on, having a table separating candy, but we'd really rely on residents to take those precautions and parents to ensure their kids are safe. So I'm sure that we'll get those plans soon, and as soon as we hear something, we'll put that out there. Next is, I don't know about you, but I'm sort of getting sick of all the power outages here in Brooklyn, and actually regionally. I know a ton of other communities are facing this right now. I was here at the office yesterday working on a document. Power went out, went back on, I lost my document, I wasn't happy. And I'm sure none of you guys are happy that it's happening so much. I've been in close contact with Darnell Robinson, which is our First Energy representative, and I've been advocating to Mary Jo, who runs our social media, to ask residents to report when they have outages and where the location is, because that's what she's asked me to collect. They're hesitant to put that on social media because they know they're going to get inundated, but that's the only way we know is if you call City Hall and let us know. So please contact City Hall, report your outages, and so we can keep track of those, because greasy wheel or the squeaky wheel gets the grease in this case. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to limit those here in our community. And then the last but not least, thank you for those residents who've been a big advocate of the ballot drop-offs. If you saw on the news recently, they're going to have places where you can drop off your ballots. I know a lot of people, between what's going on in the U.S. Postal Service and what's going on with COVID, some people are uncomfortable with mailing their ballots back or even going to the voting booth. So this is a third option. This was truly a bipartisan movement from the county Board of Election Directors. So if you haven't seen this information, they're going to have ballot boxes at libraries. The closest one here in Brooklyn will be the South Brooklyn branch at 4303 Pearl Road. And so they will have opportunities to drop off ballots, not the applications, the actual ballots, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays from 12 to 6, and most of all of October. So that is another opportunity for you to make sure that you go out and vote. And again, I'll have Mary Jo put this on social media, and Jill put this on the website tomorrow with all the locations if we say there's another branch that's closer to you to work or something like that. And I think that's it. I think I talked enough. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move on with director's reports. We have several this evening. We'll begin with our Rec Commissioner, Mr. Abruzzi.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. So the first update will be for the Stickney Creek project. Right now, currently, we're in the environmental, engineering stage, you want to call it. West Creek Conservancy, the architects and engineers are working with GPD to finalize some of the nuts and bolts of that. I can tell you that we've nailed down most of the pathway placements, a lot of the cut-ins that are going to be taking place to combine a lot of the paths over there for the project. Those have been solidified. And a lot of the path relocations are done. We're working on a placement of an amphitheater feature that is going to be put in down there, which is kind of cool. Something that we came up with. It's going to be a stone, small amphitheater down there to be used for educational purposes or summer camp or any kind of programming we have down there. This coming Wednesday, we actually have a 30% plan in hand meeting, so we'll have a little more detail on what's going to be going on with the construction phase and the progress with that. As far as I know, they're still planning on an October 26th start date, and I believe we're looking to finish by next May of 2021. So everything's moving along with that, and every meeting I'll give you whatever update I have on that. The CDBG grant at Marquardt Park, we're starting phase 1 most likely in October. We have the contract signed with the vendor to complete the pathway renovation. We're actually having a pre-con meeting at some point this week with GPD and the vendor. So as soon as we get some solid dates on that, I can forward those, but we're hoping for the pathway to be done and complete at some point in late November, I would guess. It shouldn't be too long of a process for that. We're right now finalizing the selections for the playground feature and for the shade structure. So the pathway, the playground feature, and the shade structure, and then all the connecting pathways going through the side streets, that's going to be all phase 1. And then again, phase 2 next year is going to be some added fitness equipment along the path and an updated restroom facility along with some landscaping. And then we're also considering a phase 3 as well for the following year, which we're working out details for that. So the Marquardt project is moving. The outdoor playground feature, or the outdoor pool playground feature, is going to be done the last week of this month of September. So we're going to get a new a land playground feature installed on the outdoor pool deck with some AstroTurf there. So that's going to be done at the end of this month. That obviously got pushed back because of COVID. We're hoping to have that done before summer, but that got pushed back a little bit. And then you'll notice in the coming weeks here, probably this week or early next week, we're going to release some updated policies and procedures for the rec center. Nothing too major, but the attendance there has been low, as I guess to be expected. Our procedures have been working great. We're very comfortable with our cleaning processes and all the rules that we have in place. So we feel comfortable at this point actually to start opening it back up to some of our partner communities, Parma Heights and Lindale, and some of our member communities that we have partnerships with, to allowing those residents in on a drop-in basis. That'll help us generate a little revenue, increase our patron walkthrough, but I think we're more than equipped to handle it at this point. So we're going to be releasing that information soon, along with some adjusted weekend hours. Going back to our normal fall hours, we're going to be shortening some of the Sundays and Saturdays. So that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Abruzzi. Next up is our Service Director, Mr. Verba.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening. I'd just like to give everyone an update on the construction that is taking place. South, North, East Lane, along with Kennedy Autumn and Springwood, have been completed. The contractor has tentatively set Friday, September 18th as a date for paving to take place on Pelham and Biddulph. Ridge Road from Memphis to Denison is completed on the Brooklyn side up to Clinton Road. The Safe Routes to School project was started and the curb ramps and sidewalks have been completed. Work to be completed that is still outstanding includes the pavement marking, signs, and installation. All work will be completed by the contract completion date of September 30th. Completes my report.
Thanks, sir. Next up is our Finance Director, Mr. Raguse.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening. Just to touch up on the Finance Committee report, a reminder that there are budget work sessions scheduled for the fall. October 19th, we'll be discussing the capital budget. November 2nd, we'll be discussing the general fund budget. And then potentially November 16th, we'll be discussing any carryover items from the prior meetings. All meetings will be at the Senior Center at 6 p.m. And as I talked about at the Finance Committee meeting, just an update on the coronavirus relief funding. You may recall that we received $262,000 from the state in June. We are anticipating an additional $131,000 from the state tomorrow. And there is a Senate Bill 357 that's currently in the state legislature that has been approved by the Senate, currently in the House, that would allocate an additional $383,000 to the city. So based upon the U.S. Treasury guidance issued a week or so ago, we will be using these funds for public safety, first responder personnel costs. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raguse. Next up is our Police Chief, Chief Boki.
Saving the best for last. Okay, so since March 15th, we've had a number of thefts from autos, not auto thefts, well, some of them were auto thefts. Overnight in some residential areas, we've had about 30 reports of people entering cars and taking things out of their cars. A lot of times it's 4 or 5 in the night. We've made a number of arrests. We've made 11 arrests out of those 30 reports. 3 of them were adults. 6 were juveniles. A couple of the juveniles were repeat offenders, so we arrested them twice. The vast majority, if not all, are from unlocked car doors. There's no signs of forced entry on this. People are leaving their purses, their computers, their wallets, cash, tools, anything they can, even keys in their own car. And these opportunist criminals are taking the keys and stealing the car. We're not the only community by any means. This has affected almost the entire suburban Cleveland area. From Bay Village had 6 cars stolen in one night, to Parma, to the east side, all the way to Shaker Heights. We're working with these other agencies, trying to determine if this is a group of individuals acting as one, or if it's just a bunch of kids acting on their own. But I can tell you, there's a few things you can do to help us. First and foremost, lock your doors. Lock your doors. Don't leave anything valuable in your vehicle. Don't leave it in sight. Lock your doors. If you do have those doorbell cameras, I have one, and you see something suspicious, somebody walking up your neighbor's driveway, your own driveway, feel free to give us a call. We'll go over, we can collect the video. This may help not only us, but another agency identify some individuals. My in-laws were in town, just a quick story. My in-laws were in town Labor Day weekend from Florida. I asked them if they had locked up their car. They said no. I said, go out there and lock up your car. It's just one of those things that you got to get into the habit of doing. So that's first and foremost. It's been happening since the pandemic. I don't want to make a connection. I don't know if there is one or not, but we made a number of arrests. We're working with the other cities, and we'll continue to work with them. I'm trying not to touch this. Some other things the mayor asked me to update you on. The Ridge Road Signalization Project with NOACA. This is the project that we got money for ODOT to come in, do a study on how we can improve Ridge Road traffic at the 480 corridor, see if we can improve it. They've kind of delayed that project because traffic has not been at the pre-COVID levels. They don't want to do a traffic study with less cars and try to make adjustments that way. So they've put it on right now in an indeterminate amount of time. They don't know when they're going to get back to it. We have a retirement, as spoken before. Lieutenant Miller will be retiring here in October. We're working on hiring another officer for our federal grant, and then we'll be replacing another officer there. That'll maintain our police department at 34 sworn officers. That ties for the most officers we've ever had in the police department in the history of Brooklyn. So we're about 34, and we intend to keep it that way. As you might understand, it's a little hard to hire some police officers right now. It's not real conducive. Not a lot of people are breaking down doors to be a police officer. So we're working through that, and that's part of the lateral transfer legislation that Chief Paul and I asked for. Schools did start, as Mrs. Grodick said, so I appreciate. Brooklyn started at the end of the month. St. Thomas More Heritage Christian have already started. So all those right turn on reds, they're all in effect. I believe Brooklyn's starting on the 28th again. The schools in the city have entered into another 5-year contract with the school resource officer. That's great news. We'll be working with them, maintaining safety. Halloween, no matter what happens, we will have extra patrols out on Halloween night, just in case. So we'll always do that. And on a sadder note, the Brooklyn Police Department want to extend our condolences to the Cleveland Police Department on Detective Skrnovitz's death and passing. We did have representation down at the funeral and in the funeral procession. That completes my report.
May I be recognized to ask the chief a question? Sure. Thanks. This is going to save me a phone call tomorrow. I had a message from a resident who's inquiring, and I'm not sure if there's a connection with us shifting to Chagrin Valley Dispatch or not, but that the calls for service are no longer on our website. Residents used to be able to look that information up.
So we used to have that published as an automatic upload from our system. Chagrin Valley does publish some material that we are not allowed to publish. It needs to be redacted ahead of time. So the computer programmer, again, this is above me, is working on some kind of program, trying to get that up and running. But until then, anybody can ask us
for a particular calls for that day, and it'll just have to be physically redacted by a person before we give it to you. Certain information we're not allowed to give up, social security numbers, things like that, leads information.
So, are you referring to our IT consultant? Is that who's working on it?
No, it's not our IT consultant. It's the TAC is our software provider or vendor.
Okay. So do we anticipate that at some point, once they finish this process, that the information will resume being uploaded after it's redacted? After the appropriate
If they come up with a
information?
way to do it, you should.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not the only ones affected or been asked for this, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'm not sure if you intended this or not, but you said that Mr. Butler is the best because he's actually going last. So, Mr. Butler, if you, you said you're saving the best for last. Mr. Butler, our law director.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council, Mayor. I just have 3 quick updates. First of all, I want to just point out that late today, unfortunately, the Ohio Secretary of State issued an order preventing the Cuyahoga Board of Elections from implementing its multiple ballot drop-off box plan, at least temporarily, while some litigation gets resolved over that very issue. There's a couple lawsuits pending right now on the issue of multiple ballot drop-off boxes per county in the state. So unfortunately, that plan cannot be implemented immediately, and I alerted the mayor to that, and that was late breaking news late this afternoon. Also some news today, the governor signed House Bill 606, which after a long tortured route through the General Assembly, finally has provided individuals and employers, anyone who's really operating an operation around the state of Ohio, with broad immunity from civil lawsuits that could result from the contraction of coronavirus around the state. So unless a service provider or a business or an individual even acts recklessly, then a lawsuit may not be maintained for negligence over the contraction of coronavirus. That's going to cause a lot of sighs of relief around the state. The bill doesn't go into effect for 90 days because there's not an emergency effectiveness clause attached to it. Nevertheless, when it goes into effect, it's going to prevent civil lawsuits going all the way back to the beginning of the pandemic in March, all the way through September of 2021. So that means that your average citizen, service provider, local government, which operates a police department, a fire department, a rec center, a senior center, will be immune from almost all civil lawsuits as a result of this pandemic, by virtue of the contraction, a person's contraction of coronavirus down the line. That's a very important development in Ohio law. And then the final update I want to give you, members of council, is that the administration is beginning to prepare its for its negotiations over the union contracts with our collective bargaining units, all of which expire at the end of this year. We begin typically negotiations in the fall with each of the bargaining units. There are technically 5 contracts that we're going to be negotiating this year, and hope to have those wrapped up before the end of the year. That's often not what happens in practice, but we will try and try to get something done. I know we are planning our strategy right now as an administration assiduously, and we'll come up with a plan very soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Thank you, Mayor. That was a lot of information, but all but very valuable. I'm glad to hear. I didn't hear that the governor had signed that, but I'm very glad to hear about that legislation. It's very important. Thank you for that update. All right, we'll now move on with the legislation for this evening. We have several notifications per the city ordinances that we have to notify. The council has to be notified of. The first of which has been mentioned several times. That's a donation of $200 was received from Keep Brooklyn Beautiful. It was received from the owner of the post office property here in Brooklyn, so we thank them for that. A second is a grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety, and it was a grant for $2,945.41. That again is to purchase life-saving medical equipment for the city. Next was the community planning grant awarded from the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission. And again, this is for the Brook Park Road streetscape that the mayor alluded to a little bit ago, and that is for the amount of $120,000. All Right, we also received information in regards that I talked about the Brook Park Road resurfacing project. There was a portion of that that the city will have to pay, but the rest of it will be paid by other funds. Next was a donation of additional 100 face masks from a donation from Destination Cleveland. So we thank that organization for that donation, 100 mask packs, I should say. Next was a PPE donation from the County Office of Emergency Management for the Senior Center, including gloves, various masks, face shields, and sanitizer for use at the Senior Center. So we thank the Office of Emergency Management for that. Next was an award for $23,117.79 for approved equipment. The equipment will cost $30,823.79 there for the fire department. The city will cover the cost of the rest, which is $77,0593. And then the last notification is a $3,600 donation from the Kiwanis for the storyboard project that the mayor talked about in her report. So we thank the Kiwanis for that. Not only that, but also for their service to the communities over the last several years. We'll now move on with our other legislation, the first of which is Ordinance 2020-32, authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with West Creek Conservancy for the sale of certain real property known as the portion of 8707 Memphis Avenue, and this is on second reading. Next is Resolution 2020-3, accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. This is in regards to the millage for the city. It stands at 5.9 mils. It is unchanged. This is just a housekeeping item that we need to pass in order to receive the tax monies. Next is Resolution 2020-5, requesting the county fiscal officer to advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2020 tax levies pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code. Again, a housekeeping item to make sure that we are able to receive those tax monies. Resolution 2020-6 is on first reading, and we hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This is a resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and both Mrs. Grodick and Mrs. Ryan Shockey explain this resolution.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Next is Resolution 2020-7. We hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This is supporting West Creek Conservancy's Clean Ohio Green Space Round 15 grant applications for the Big Creek Greenway by the City of Brooklyn and declaring an emergency. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-8. Hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This is a resolution placing a moratorium on the granting of building permits for any building structure use or change of use that would enable the construction of billboards for a period not to exceed 90 days from the effective date of this resolution and declaring an emergency. Any comments or questions? Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-33 is on first reading, but we do hope to pass by suspension of the rules due to a timing issue to get this contract signed. This is authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Mary Lynn Zambori for the purchase of certain real property known as 7476 Memphis Avenue. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules. Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Del Bear?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-35 is on first reading this evening. amending sections 1360.21 inspection and 1360.22 right of entry of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. Ordinance 2020-36 is on first reading, but we hope to pass by suspension of the rules due to a timing issue with vacancies that may become available in the police and fire departments. Amending section 149.17 positions of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. Are there any additional comments or questions in addition to what we already discussed?
Introduce by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-37, we hope to pass by suspension of the rules this evening, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Public Entities Pools of Ohio for the purpose of providing property and casualty insurance for the City of Brooklyn for the coverage period beginning September 25th, 2020, for a total annual cost not to exceed $129,266. And again, we're passing by emergency to the fact that this will go into effect prior to our next council meeting. Comments or questions? All right, introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-38 is on first reading, authorizing the mayor to grant a conservation easement to West Creek Conservancy, an Ohio nonprofit corporation, for Stickney Creek stabilization and restoration. Ordinance 2020-39 is on first reading, but we hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This is resurfacing of Ridge Road from Pearl Road to Flowerdale Avenue and requesting the cooperation of the County of Cuyahoga. Comments or questions?
Introduced by all, to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
And lastly, on first reading this evening is ordinance 2020-40, declaring the improvement of certain real property to be a public purpose pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, section 5709.40B, declaring such improvement to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that will directly benefit such property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, designating a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments, and authorizing compensation payments to the Brooklyn City School District and Polaris Career Center Joint Vocational School District. That is on first reading. That concludes our agenda for this evening. Does the mayor, directors, or anyone else on council want to add anything else? Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Sue Grodick? Yes. Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be Monday, September 28th. Have a blessed evening.